Hello again, this is Stephen Jerome, and I'm going to continue reading from my third novel, The London Year. This is part 55. We're about to go to Sebastian's big New Year's Eve party. Trendy, if not rich, we all had special clothes for the New Year's Eve party. I knew Gracie would mix and match, concocting her own stylish look. I had my frisky tailor at the weigh-in to thank for a very fitted shirt and last season's Kenzo trousers I found on the sale rack. The only jacket I had was so American in style I hadn't worn it, had no occasion to, since I'd arrived in London, but I rationalized that its red weave would fit the festive occasion. But Sebastian was right. I needed some new clothes. I imagined Finn would dress down but cool as usual, probably with a hat for flair. He was an attractive guy when he made an effort. Tess decided to use some of the Christmas, nay holiday, she's Jewish, money from her parents to buy a new dress. It was going to be a surprise, and I heard much muffled laughter behind closed doors as she and Gracie played dress-up in their room. Sebastian had paid, he called it a late Christmas present, for a professional makeup artist to come over and do the girls' faces. A subtle but startling transformation Tess later described as a magic veil that made her more glamorous than she'd ever seen herself. Sebastian, with Gracie's help, also organized a private car to take us to the new Sebastian restaurant to be, which was indeed right next to the theater where Gracie worked. They were already devising a marketing strategy that supported both businesses. I had no doubt that success was guaranteed. A crowd was gathering on the sidewalk when we arrived just before 10 o'clock. The promised paparazzi were there taking pictures as the cars lined up and dropped off their exclusive passengers. We couldn't believe we were part of it. Finn stepped out first, offering his hand to Gracie. She was dressed in a quirky mix of hippie chic and 1930s glamour, including a man's hat that well predated Diane Keaton's style in Annie Hall. Then I stepped out with Tess. Her new cream-colored dress scooped low for a bosomy décolletage that made her blush when I admired her in it for the first time. She looked spectacular, but even glammed up, she never saw herself as sexy. The photographers loved us for a moment until they realized we weren't famous. Then the flutter of flashes dwindled to a few polite bursts, just in case a fashion editor knew more than they did, and they'd unwittingly caught a first look at the next up-and-comer. Of we four, I knew Finn would be that person once his portrait of Sebastian debuted as the restaurant's signature. Inside there was no hiding the unfinished walls and concrete floor, but as Sebastian had suggested, it added its own sense of fun. Once invitations were presented in the reception area, the space opened up into the large future dining room. Balloons blanketed the ceiling to distract from the raw surfaces overhead. Music came from a DJ in an alcove of newly installed beams and wooden studs. Across the room was a blank floating wall, which I surmised was the future home for Finn's portrait of Sebastian. The dimensions were large, but not nearly as the wall size of Finn's studio. Its placement, however, meant it would dominate the room. As the party revved up, the beautiful people swirled around us. The roving waiter models served round after round of champagne and finger food. Why do I never see them on the bus, I wondered. They travel on the model line, Finn said, hidden tunnels, not for the likes of us. In the mix, too, was a slightly older contingent. The men all wore expensive suits and ties, but they weren't the svelte or stylish kind. Their wives, or too young, dates, were in expensive party dresses and bouffant hairdos fresh from the salon, but they didn't have flair. I surmised that these were the business part of the before pleasure on the guest list Gracie had been questioning. Where the money met the road, I thought. I noticed Sebastian spent more time with this group than he did out on the dance floor mixing with the trendies. As drinks flowed, the DJ spun everyone into a frenzy with classic R&B and the latest disco hits. It was my first time dancing with Tess, and I found it uncanny how our moves seemed to complement each other. Mine had steps. I raised my arms and made full turns. Tess danced with a more guttural sensuality. Best of all, though, was dancing close. There was an ease to our pairing, and once again the feeling of a very familiar connection. In the future decade of our off and on relationship, music and dancing would always be our most common ground. Party hats appeared and little horns to toot. Then the raucous countdown to midnight. I held Tess tightly. Her breasts, never so revealed, were larger than she ever dressed to let on. Perhaps I was giving her permission to find herself as a woman, just as she was encouraging me to express myself through fashion. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, cheers rose, confetti rained down. Tess and I kissed a proper, lusty kiss. I felt her nipples hard against my chest. I know she felt my... Wasn't that the point? Much later, back at the flat, we said an awkward goodnight on the landing, neither knowing quite how to broach that last inevitable step. But that new year marked our personal breakthrough to the grown-up realms of intimacy. I was undressing alone when Tess knocked softly. I opened the door. It was time. Okay, I'm going to stop there, a good place to stop. And we'll continue with whatever the next part is. Let's see, it'll be part 56. So, thank you for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.